It is my honor today to present a fabulous, highly awarded, beautiful American artist, Kaziah Hancock. She has been called the Mother Theresa of the art world. She is the first American artist that dedicated her time, her ability, and her fantastic artwork by painting fallen soldiers who had given their life or their limbs to this country in their service. That is the greatest price that could ever be paid for a painting. Yet, she offered these paintings in love with no cash involved because she knew the price was already way too high. I present to you a fabulous artist, Kaziah Hancock.
Thank you.
Kaziah, you have written a book called Keziah, Born to Paint. It's not your first book, but this book is extremely unusual because this book is about your life. I don't believe America was ready for this book until now. The reason I don't believe that is because today we have enough information coming out from various sources about the slavery in the name of religion in polygamist cults. If those stories had not come out, it would be very hard for America to believe yours. Yours is a most unusual survival of abuse story, born into polygamy. I'm really proud to present you today to make people aware that your book is available, Keziah, Born to Paint. It's available on Amazon. But this interview is to introduce the public to you, the author, the artist, and the brave woman who dared to speak her truth. Let's start with an overlay about why you wrote your book.
Well, you know, for those that have given me the time of day to want to hear my story and why I would have the kind of dedication to step forward to offer a simple act of kindness to these families that have paid the ultimate price for keeping America safe, taking the war to Al-Qaeda over there instead of having the buggers come over here and give it to us here. Now, that's controversial, and I understand all that. But the bottom line is without these beautiful people to give a damn about our security and our freedom, hey, we're screwed. Our ass is grass and the lawnmower's fast on its way. And so, but here's the thing that, you know, a lot of people know me as an artist and they think, oh, you know, that's great and I like her paintings and all that. What they don't realize is for what I've been through, it's so horrific. It's a wonder I'm even sane, that I'm even alive, let alone an artist. But I have to tell you, the prayer that I said just before we started this interview, to lift up Christ, that's the source. That he is how I got through all this wretched mess of abuse, domination by these sons of blinkers that think they're going to be gods because of the false prophets, Joseph Smith, Mohammed, there's a lot of them in this world. And, you know, when Joseph Smith introduced the doctrine, well, as man is, God once was, and as God is, man may become. Excuse me? When Christ was asked about that kind of crap, he says, gods? I know of no other gods. There's only one. And Mormonism is not a weak delusion. Oh, hell no. It is a strong delusion. And it was without Joseph Smith having the audacity to put together the 132nd section that he put in the Doctrine and Covenants, the story never would have been possible. Never would have happened.
There are thousands and thousands of people that live polygamy and enforce the same dominant slavery of women sexually and spiritually in different names. Many blame the Bible and King David and Solomon for their polygamous behavior. They call themselves Christians. Some call themselves Jews. Even the old book, the Old Testament of the Bible, the children of Abraham, that's where all of the Islamic and the Eastern people blame their polygamy, and they blame it on Abraham. They justify their behavior by what happened in history. It's very clear, however, that Cain killed Abel in the Bible. That was there too, and that didn't justify it.
Yeah, just because polygamy was there, hey, it's right along with molestation and homosexuality and adultery.
True, but the point.
And I'm sure that there are people that justify all those things because they're in the Bible. Hey, they're put down as sins, not virtues. No, when you can find what Christ has to say on a subject, here's the thing. I didn't always think this way because I was brought up in Mormonism, but since I've begged God to forgive me for having ever been stupid enough to believe in Mormonism, I try to find out what Christ has to say on an issue. And then when I find out what his opinion is, I say, okay, that's my opinion. Like child molestation. What does he say about those suckers? Be better that a millstone hung about their necks, they were drowned in the depths of the sea, or that they were never born than to molest one of my little children. That's what he had to say. So, I have a real contempt for child molestation. And it is so horrific. It is so prolific. It is the basis for these polygamous groups because, see, the slaughter of the innocent, that's how they survive. When a young girl is programmed that she has got to submit and come to the feet of the priesthood and ask them where God would have her be given in marriage. Oh yeah, you know what? That's a hell of a tool. Because without that, and without them programming the mothers to raise daughters that think that, okay, this is the way to this celestial glory, as if you're willing to be placed in marriage and polygamy, because this is the way to this highest kingdom. First of all, they represent them as the only ones that have the word of God, okay? And the only ones that can carry the priesthood. With the inference that, you know what, you're a woman, you can't talk to God. He's not going to answer you. He's going to answer me because I've had special hands laid upon my head, and because I wear special clothing and special underwear with holes in it, and that makes me freaking holy. See, that there is intimidating, even on its own, because a woman thinks, well, I don't have any special priesthood. I don't have any special powers. And they're filled with the spirit of humility. Guess what? Humility is a virtue. Well, then now I want to enter something else into this conversation. Joseph Smith, when he wrote the damn Book of Mormon, he said that was the most correct and most complete book on the face of the earth. Oh, really? And what did it do? It condemned polygamy. Yes, it did. And he said that the cries of the women went up to heaven. And, what an abomination it was. Then he decides to get do I dare say a hard on? And the lust to have sex with other men's wives, even when their husband's still alive, and he starts taking all these women, even on down to 14-year-old, which is child molestation, excuse me, and I don't give a rip if you call it in the name of Jesus or what. It is child molestation, and God does not approve of it. He never has, and he never will. And, and when I say that Joseph Smith's a false prophet, people look at me like, oh, you're so hateful and you're so mean. Christ would never be mean like that. Oh, really? Well, why in the flip did he take the whip and walk through the temple and say, get out of here, you money changers? Because Joseph Smith did this stuff to appeal to the pride and vanity of man. He became wealthy with a land given him and all kinds of means of support. It totally went to his head. When absolute power takes on a new meaning, when it becomes absolute corruption with absolute power, and that's what the people gave him, because they were intimidated by his claims. To really get by with a falsehood, you got to lie really big, because otherwise, people might see through it. But that's what he did. He told a whopper of a lie, and then he comes up with all this crap in 132nd section. Now, the Mormon Church, the mainstream Mormon Church, the sanitized version of Mormonism, which is what most people are a part of, and so hey, I have lots of Mormons, and I love them dearly, and they are practicing the sanitized version of Mormonism. But make no mistake, the 132nd section, that freaky, is still in their book, and they ain't getting away with it. Well, what do you know? Could it just be like judges that sit on the high courts of our nation that are so easy on child molesters, that these guys are secretly wishing they could be banging some young kids too, and other men's wives, like Joseph Smith did? Oh, yeah, they're not going to do away with it.
A lot of Mormons that belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints know absolutely nothing about Joseph Smith's marriages.
They don't want to know.
That's true, but that's something the church has just fessed up to recently. I know Mormons that I dearly love that absolutely know nothing about it. I know Mormons that are converts from other countries that know absolutely nothing about the church's history. Most modern-day Mormons that belong to the church today think that polygamy was only done because there were so many men killed and they took the extra women in. They know nothing about the literal foundation, starting with and activated through Joseph Smith.
Right.
Right. So when we look at Mormonism now today, if you were to get on the internet, you'd find so many facets of it that it's absolutely unbelievable.
That's right.
Many churches were even started from Joseph Smith's family, not just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It went many directions. Power that works spreads. The MO spreads, whether the title itself remains the same or not. The trouble is that fundamentalist Mormonism with polygamy was so intense and created so much slavery that the United States government demanded that the state of Utah sign a manifesto abandoning polygamy in 1890 in order to get statehood. It was absolutely demanded. And it still remains illegal in the state of Utah. They want to use gay marriages as an excuse to ride on the coattail of gay marriage and make polygamy okay. The only thing is they don't want to legalize it, because then they would be legally responsible for all these wives and children. That's the last thing they want. Right now, the one that's responsible is the woman and your tax dollars. So they certainly don't want to marry all these women and be responsible for them. They just want to decriminalize it.
I know it. It's tax fraud to the ultimate.
Most of them are on welfare.
Of course they are.
And very few people understand this. So what I want to do here, basically, in getting into your book, I want to go into your life And I want you to tell people how the misuse of religion, how the misuse of faith twisted your life. And of course, that applies to hundreds and thousands of polygamous kids, of which I'm one.
Sure.
Of which I'm one. But your life itself is extremely unique. So I want you to take that and let people know what you've experienced, because they will not comprehend a study done strictly on theology and how that applies to your life. And unless we do this, we need to take it into your life.
Okay, here's the thing. First of all, I resent that the Mormon Church calls themselves the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Christ has nothing to do with it. This is the ultimate taking of Christ's name in vain. They should call that wretched mess the Church of freaking Joseph Smith. And then just say it as it is. Because here's the thing. The numbers game okay, Christianity, if we're to look at Christianity, here's the thing. We are saved through grace for what Christ did on the cross for us. That those of us that give our lives to Him and beg Him to forgive us of our wretched sins, that we can receive that forgiveness. Then we are clean, and we can, according to the real gospel of Jesus Christ, enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, Mormonism twist, this is Joseph Smith's garbage. He said you have to work your way into heaven. And one of those ways of working your way is to have multiple wives and concubines. Well, this strong delusion that men believe that they're going to be gods, this my dear father, he'd served in World War I. He was a post chaplain. I don't know if he was teaching Christianity or Mormonism at the time, but this is what he did in the army. He was injured, and he was sent home. And they put a steel plate in his head where a bullet had grazed his skull and gave him an honorable discharge. Well, now, but with this garbage of multiple wives, see, then it's all about the numbers game. Do I have 2 wives? Do I have 3 wives? Do I have 7 wives? Do I have 30 wives? Like that damnable Warren Jeffs, you see. So then when guys get it, this is why it's so freaking corrupted, and I really resent them using the name of Christ to justify their garbage. But here we go. So my dear father, he married a woman that he would never live with, because she took epileptic fits, and she had to stay in the Provo mental institution so that she could get the care she needed. Okay, well, but rather than divorce her, when he married my dear mother as a second wife, not legally now, it's just a written statement between them, and I actually got to see this as a little girl. It was mother's beautiful fancy writing, and it was called marriage certificate, and with scrolls in the corners and everything, and beautiful handwriting that mother had, and then they both signed it. It was the marriage covenant. Well, okay, but he took her out on a 150-acre mining claim in the Arizona desert on the Kaibab Indian Reservation. He built a structure with a dirt floor, just cedar posts in the corner, no windows. It was 15 by 15. I got to see it, and I got to measure it, actually. And this is where she was kept and had babies. Now, here's the thing. Daddy would walk 50 miles into town once a month to pick up his check. They had no transportation, communication, nothing with the outside world, you see. And he felt safe that this way he would be away from the eyes of the law, to where he wouldn't be prosecuted for having a second wife, because men at that time in Colorado City, Short Creek, was still being thrown in jail for having multiple wives. So at the time that he died, here's the horrific thing that he left my mother in, was with him the only one that could walk that 50 miles, no horses, nothing, and the water supply was only hauled in once a month in barrels outside of, they'd collect anything from rain gutters and so forth in barrels. But without rains and that, well, the day he died, he told Mother not to bury him because he felt that he was mighty, he was strong, he was godly, and that God would resurrect him. Well, so Mother, hoping that all that would happen, because without him coming back to life, they were facing certain death. A woman with 4 children and a bun in the oven, which was me, but then after 3 days, he did not come back, of course. And then a few days later, I was born. I was born a week after he was died. So, here's the thing. Mother had no milk in her breast because the goats have to have water, which they didn't have to create milk. But the goat had babies on the day I was born, and my brother, at 9 years old, was able to milk the goat and give me something to eat. That's how they kept me alive. And the only way that the family was discovered is a sheep herder in the area. Okay, well, that's the starting of the book. Now, here's the thing. When we were rescued and taken off the prairie, we were put right in to a polygamous community because Mother had made a promise to Daddy to raise our children up. He said, I want you to raise our children up in our belief. So here we go. A mother with 4 daughters that believes in polygamy? Oh, dear God. Talk about wolves in sheep's clothing showing up at the door. And that's what happened as we grew up and well, it's like my dear sister Esther. She was 14 years old when one of those buggers had her come and work for him in his herb shop to help him with the customers and to sweep the floors and stuff. The bugger raped her. And then she couldn't even come home and be consoled by her mother and family after having been raped. Oh no, she had to stay in the home of the rapist until the bugger could speak to the brethren and have her sealed to him. Yeah. Well, that was the first one that come up missing.
Explain to people how these cults are tied together in relationship to Warren Jeffs. You said Short Creek. People understand that. A lot of people don't know that these cults have different names, different prophets, different bank accounts, all in the name of their own church. Each prophet is the only one in the world that's right, the only one in the world that has God's power, and yet they exchange daughters and females throughout the entire polygamous cults. I have female relatives in every single polygamous cult that I know of that claims or blames Mormonism.
Yeah.
Define where you fit in.
Well, here's the thing. It's like button. Who has the button? They all claim they have the button. What's the button? The button is the only one that holds the priesthood on the face of the earth at this time, that has the power to unite people, to bring together a nucleus, to create the kingdom of God, a nucleus of people that Christ will come to when he returns. They all claim it. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Now, and how they're tied together is because of the occult mentality that they all indoctrinate their sons and daughters. You have to obey the brethren when they speak. The thinking's been done. You don't get to do your own thinking. Well, that's how it works, and that's why I refer to it as these priesthood brethren. They're actually wolves in sheep's clothing. They're like whitened sepulchres full of dead men's bones because they're worse than the pimps in Vegas. The gosh dang pimps in Vegas, hey, those women get to keep their money, if they go out there and have to service some guys and sex and all that crap. These young girls, their whole lives are they're told, who to marry, where they live, where they work, what they'll read, what they will watch, where they go, who their friends are, what music they listen to. It's the ultimate control. You know what? That was never intended. Christ doesn't want zombies. He wants people to be free, and then in their freedom to choose him, to choose what is right, to choose honor, to choose integrity, to choose honesty.
Was polygamy a choice for you?
If you don't obey the brethren and you don't marry who I want you to marry, I was told you'll be turned over to the buffetings of Satan. You will be sent into dissolution and dissolved into native element. You will cease to exist. That's very terrifying to a kid.
It's more than that. For me, if you didn't accept polygamy, you were cast out from your family.
Oh, yes. And all that too, sure.
And I know women that were literally starved, locked up, etc. when they weren't thrilled about polygamy. As for me, my husband told me that if I didn't want him bedding other women, it's because I was immoral. I was immoral. But of course, if I were to go and bring in a brother husband, then I would be eligible for the death penalty to save my evil soul.
Yeah.
Is that how you were raised?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. See, and the law of consecration, which is actually the law of confiscation. And so here's the thing. Women can't have anything in their names because, of course, they're not legally married. So all the labor that they produce and their checks are just signed over to their dang husband. And by the way, he didn't give a rat's rear about them, because actually, if they get sick and it's going to be a big hospital bill to get them well, then it's easier to just get another wife. Gosh dang, just let a woman die. And I know of women that have died from 2 pregnancy, ovarian cancer, things like that, it could have been removed. Their lives could have been saved. But, oh no, I can't afford the doctor, so I'll just get another wife.
I had preeclampsia with one of my pregnancies. I swelled up so much, even my eyes almost swelled shut. And I figured that I was going to lose the baby and die. And my husband would not allow me to have medical care. He told me if I died, other women would raise my children, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, right.